We could call this video The Tale of Two Leaves. One is bright and cheery, while the other is just a little bit droopy. The difference? One has been lined and one has not. The one that has not clearly shows the seam allowance that has been turned under, and its color is not even across the whole leaf, as you can see. The background shines through in the center. Let's look at another example. Two hearts. The top heart is of a lighter color, and the seam allowance shows through. Both problems are easily solved by simply lining the patch. No seam allowance showing, and the color is very even across the face of the heart. Lining a patch is a very simple two-step operation. We will place our lining by using the pin method of placement. I'm going to go to the back and I'm going to put pins on the farthest outside edges of the heart to be lined. If I can get my pins out here, I will. There we go. And maybe another one or two. Maybe one over here. And let me stick one up here also. This gives a good general idea of where the second heart needs to be. And I hadn't realized down on this gray, it's not going to show up well, but it is here. And I'm going to go ahead and place my lining fabric. Now I'm going to use 100% cotton. I'm using a white bleached muslin, a very good quality. I don't skimp on the lining. I think it is very important to have a good quality muslin. I will pin the lining in place on the front so that I don't have any pins on the back which can catch on my thread as I do my basting. One more maybe. There we go. And I flip it over and can remove the pins on the back side. Now I said it's two steps, and it is. We will be doing first a black thread that we will use to baste directly on the pencil line. And the second step will be to use a white thread, a thread that will remain in the project forever, holding the lining in place. So to begin with, and I can start anywhere, it doesn't matter. I always don't know why, but I'll start at the point down here. I'm just going to use, I'd call it an average size basting stitch, whatever. You can see on the front what it's looking like. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and baste all the way around this, and I'll be back with you in just a moment. I have completed the basting with my black thread. It wouldn't have to be black, by the way. It's just something that's going to show up very clearly on the white, which I guess is just about any color. We flip it over, and you can see that my heart is very distinctly outlined. At this point, I want to get rid of my pins. And I'm going to put in a second thread now. This one is going to be a white thread. See it over here? It is knotted at the end. This thread will remain in my project forever. It will hold the lining in place. I'm going to come in approximately, 3/8 of an inch or so. It can be less. I'm just needing to give myself room to use my scissors to cut the heart out. So I'm going to come, in this case, I'm doing about 3/8 of an inch today. Some patches, a smaller patch, will be smaller. In fact, some patches are so tiny that to line them, all you need is one knot right in the center of your lining. You'll discover those as you applique. One will come up one of these days. When I get to the end, I knot it again. My lining patch Okay, we can cut that thread. Oopsie, if I can find scissors, I will. We are now ready to cut out the lining. I'm going to cut directly on the inside of the black line. Okay, so we're going to come in here as close as I can get, but directly on, directly inside, not on the outside. Cutting on the inside of the black line. I'm just coming to the end, and there it is. I've cut my heart out of the lining. I'm going to go ahead now and clip my black threads and pull them out. We don't need them anymore. They've served a wonderful purpose. They have given us a guide to use when cutting our heart lining fabric. Okay, and now the magic happens. You just lift away the lining and you have a perfectly lined heart. It is in the exact and precise position that it needs to be. It has been firmly attached to the background. That basting thread, the white one that will remain in the project, is going to keep the lining from bunching up as we handle it or as we wash it, so that it will always have a nice, smooth look to it. Fast and easy. What could be better? There is one other situation you need to be aware of when lining patches. When you have a situation where one patch slides underneath the other patch, you have to make one adjustment. Here is one that I have done improperly. I have done it just exactly the way I showed you on the first heart. However, you'll notice there is a shadow here. We are actually seeing a little bit of the purple shine through on the yellow. That is happening because the lining fabric has pulled away just a little bit from that edge. To correct that, we are going to cut our lining on the outside of the black line rather than the inside. And when you do that, you have this. You've solved the problem. It's gone. Let me show you maybe by folding the two side by side, and you can see the difference. Here we have a little line shadow. That's because this goes underneath the upper patch, and the lining that I have put in it has pulled away just slightly. Correct it by cutting on the outside, and I have a sample of that here. As you can see, I have cut on the inside of the black line on all the edges that will be turned under. The edge that slides underneath, I cut on the outside, and I give myself a fair seam allowance. I've allowed about 1/4 inch there. This will solve the problem of any shadowing along the edge that slides under another patch. Here's a question for you. Do we have to always line with 100% white muslin? No, we don't. Here's a placemat I have made, and instead of lining with muslin, I have lined with batting. I've used one layer of 80% and one layer of a wool bat. I've used exactly the same technique, and when I get done, I have a sculpted flower. My rose has a marvelous three-dimensional effect. Can be done just as easily as the lining. To achieve this sculpted three-dimensional effect, I use 2 layers of batting. The first on the bottom is an 80-20. The second on top is a wool bat. I've done it just exactly the same as I have with my lining. I first basted with using a darker color on the pencil line. I then used a white thread to baste and hold the batting in place. I have been very careful not to pull that thread very tightly. That is because I do not want indentations that will show after I put my applique fabric over the top. Once my batting is in place, I am able to place my fabric, my applique fabric over that, and I like to pull it out, pin it fairly taut so that the batting pushes against the applique fabric, giving it a really puffy look. Once I have done that, I can turn it over and baste as usual, cut out as usual, and applique as usual. You don't have to sculpt just roses or flowers of any type. This technique works beautifully for baby quilts or children's quilts. Here I have a teddy bear. In this case, I have chosen to do an overall batting rather than individual sections. And you can see that I've added a nice poofy batting here. Once I have done that, I've gone ahead and appliqued individual sections of my bear. And as you can see, this bear is so soft. I've added an extra layer of batting in this little dark blue tummy, and he's so very nice and soft. Any child would be delighted to receive a quilt with this little soft, very touchable teddy bear. Let me take you into our dining room to show you how I have used this placemat. It is one of 4. I have also made a circular table topper. All of them include the soft sculpted roses. From baby quilts to elegant dining room settings, sculpting our applique patches adds that extra wow factor to our applique projects. I hope you have enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it for you. Please check out my other applique videos for more of my quick prep applique techniques. Until next time, happy appliquing!